What's up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden, and on today's show, we're talking all things Cameron Johnson. That's right. The people ask, and we gave it to them. We are talking about Cameron Johnson trades. Now, I will just preface this because me and Facci pre-recorded this episode on Monday evening, and there was a deal that took place Wednesday in the afternoon between the Charlotte Hornets and the Phoenix Suns that I believe will impact one of the three-team deals that I came up with here in this exercise. So that will be irrelevant in terms of Josh Okogie being able to be moved from the Suns. So other than that, all the other deals are still eligible as no other trades have been made. At 9:45 p.m. when I'm recording this little extra clip here at the beginning on January 15th. So crazy to think that we're already halfway through the month. It has gone by so fast. But Bennedict Mathurin, it was just announced minutes ago from Shams Charania that he will be suspended for the game against the Detroit Pistons on Thursday night for the bump into the official. So, we kind of thought it might happen. We weren't sure exactly if he would get, suspended or not, but he will get suspended, which will cost him some money. And he did get 3 technical fouls in that game as well. So, just a rough ending for Mathurin in that game. But overall, I think it's a good learning experience for Mathurin. Don't expect too much negative to come out of this, except for that one. But the Pacers, good news today on the injury report. Tyrese Haliburton and Aaron Nesmith listed as questionable for the game against Detroit. If those two guys come back, I know you lose Mathurin, but getting back Nesmith and Haliburton, that's big if they're able to play. So really interested to see how that all plays out. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here on the audio side of things. We'll come back. We'll dive into that pre-recorded episode. If you're watching this on the video side of things, you are looking at a screen, basically our thumbnail, and just hearing audio play over it. So I appreciate you all so much for tuning in and listening to another episode here of Setting the Pace, and hope you guys enjoy our conversation discussing the pros and cons of trading for Cam Johnson, why the Pacers should and should not do it, and then listening to some of our trade ideas. And as we kind of dive into all of this and figure out what it would take to pry Cam Johnson away from the Brooklyn Nets. We'll be right back after this.
This is Tyrese Haliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What is up, Pacer Nation? Hope y'all are having a great day today. I am back with the one and only, the great, the lovely. It is Michael J. Facci. Now, Facci, I do have to ask you, are you a natural ginger?
No. Correct term is actually strawberry blonde. All right. Okay. So the answer is no. But you used to get that question a lot. People would say, "Do you have red hair?" No. Look at the color red. Is that me? No. Is there?
I don't see blonde though.
That's what it's strawberry blonde. You ever make a smoothie before?
Yes, I have. It doesn't look strawberry blonde. It looks like brown.
Depends what the ingredients are. So you got to mix them up. That's the shade of hair that I have.
Okay. Well, anyway, I don't know if this qualifies then, but we're recording this on January 13th. 2025. I don't know if you saw this on social media or not today, but it is National Kiss a Ginger Day. So didn't know if you would qualify for that.
No, don't qualify. Those lips, there's no need to pucker up over here. I'm gonna stay on my end. You stay on yours.
I'm not kissing you. I was just asking if you got a kiss from your wife. I'm not gonna do it. I did. What are we doing here?
Hey, look, I did. I didn't know where you're going with it, so I'm in good hands. But I think there's maybe some other stuff that we could touch on today, other than the holiday of today, and tell people what we're talking about today. So I think they're gonna like
you. This is such a weird transition. I never expected it to be this awkward for me. This is hilarious. I don't know why, but it just the way we're talking about this to start a podcast is very hilarious. Regardless. Anyway, we were going to record this on Sunday night. Facci and I decided, let's let it breathe for a day. Let's see if there's anything else we can come up with. But today, we are recording this on the 13th. Like I said, this is probably airing on the 15th or the 16th. So, we are pre-recording this. But Monday night, as of now, Cam Johnson has not been traded. And so he has been one of the hottest names out there on the trade market. Obviously, Brooklyn is trying to kind of retool, rebuild this roster. Cam Johnson is about 27 years old, got a couple more years on his contract, making some pretty good money. I think he re-signed with the Nets last summer, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got some pretty, he's got a pretty good payday right now. Like it's not like the egregious contract or anything like that, but making good money. They're a bad team, kind of heading nowhere. They want to, get worse to get better, kind of like two steps forward to take three, taking two steps back to move three steps forward, that kind of thing. So, uh, we're going to talk about Cam Johnson and all of the potential things out there that would have to be included for a Cam Johnson trade. We come up with some trade ideas ourselves. The pros and cons to trading for somebody like this. People have asked us about Cam Johnson, and we'll be honest, like there has been some stuff out there that has linked the Pacers to Cam Johnson as well. We'll get into all of that, but yeah, he's a really interesting player. I think that a lot of people are intrigued by his potential, but we're going to talk about it today, and I'm excited for it because we have a lot to say.
No, we really do. And just to kind of set the stage, so Cam Johnson has 2.5 years left on his contract. Look, no one's paid pennies anymore in the NBA, but it's not a bad contract by any means. To be very specific, this season he's making $22.5 million. Next year, what's actually very appealing and pretty rare, the contract goes down in value. It actually goes down to 20.5 million, and then the final year it's back up to 22.5. So
Okay.
I think it's a very reasonable contract for a guy that has the production that he has. And just to kind of set that stage, this season he's averaging 19 and a half points per game, career high, on 49.6% shooting, 4.3 rebounds, 3 assists per game, and he has always been a stellar 3-point shooter. This year, he's shooting 43.6% from three, and for his career, just a hair under 40%. So, having a career year by all means, and definitely someone that looks to be moved by the deadline. To what you were saying before, I've seen that Indiana is the second favorite to potentially trade for Cam Johnson. So there could be a little bit of smoke where that fire is.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because the Nets have already traded Dennis Schroeder and Dorian
Mhm.
Finney-Smith, and there was some reporting out there that the Pacers had interest in Dorian Finney-Smith. However, if you look at what the Nets got back, it was expiring contracts. And so we kind of discussed like why Obi Toppin wasn't involved in a trade for Dorian Finney-Smith because he's still got 4 years left on his deal, including this year. So the rest of this year plus three more. So, could they be willing to take on more money in a deal with Obi Toppin if they're moving Cam Johnson at this point, who already has quite a bit of years left on his deal? Who knows? But we'll discuss all that here in a little bit. But Cam Johnson, like the numbers have been really good this year. I think the one number where you did not bring up, which I do want to know if you can give us some of that information because you've been digging.
Oh, I'm
Um,
always thinking, what do you got?
yeah, you are a digger. That's true. How many games has he played this year, and how many has he missed due to injury?
So Cam Johnson has played 32 games. He started all 32 for the Nets right now on the season. Their record is let's see. Their record is 13 and 26. So he's actually been pretty healthy for his standards. Looks like he's missed 7 games, which, not bad. But for his career, one of the cons on Cam Johnson is historically he has not been that healthy. The career high games that he's played in a season is 66 games. That was in the 2021 to 2022 season. Last year, he only played 58 games. He has another season where he's played 60. So on average, you're getting roughly 60 games out of an 82 game season for Cam Johnson.
Okay, that's a big question mark because when you trade for a guy that has injury problems, especially when they're right in the prime of their career, you don't want to get yourself caught up paying a guy the next 3 seasons, for that amount. So I guess the other question is, we know that Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton, their extensions went into effect this season. Pascal, a 4-year deal, I believe. Haliburton, a 5-year deal. Um, for Cam Johnson's deal, is it in alignment with Pascal Siakam in terms of when it expires, or does it expire a year before?
It expires a year before.
Okay, because that to me could be really interesting as well if the Pacers are looking for some flexibility there. Because the thing is with Pascal's contract, like when he does become an expiring contract, he'll be 34 years old, and so that is definitely the latter years of an NBA professional career. Now we see, guys like Chris Paul, LeBron James, they last a lot longer in the league. And we'll be
Rare.
honest, Pascal did start kind of late. So Pascal could still have, maybe 4 years after that. But do we think Pascal will be at that same level? I don't really know. But, at that point, Cam Johnson would probably be close to Pascal's age when he signed his 4-year deal with the Pacers. So if you are looking for maybe like a transition right there of, okay, Pascal's 4-year contract's up, uh, they probably will have had to have signed or re-signed Cam Johnson to a new deal because his contract would expire the year before. But still, if you're kind of comparing the years there in terms of like age, that could make some sense. But that is obviously way, 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 way down the road. We're not talking about 4 years from now. I'm just trying to think of how do we want to set this up now, because I think that we could obviously jump into trade stuff, but I also think we need to jump into like what do we like about Cam Johnson's fit
Sure.
with this team. And so I think that's a good place to start. Um, from the numbers that you gave me and everything, what are you thinking about his fit here?
So Cam can play the 3 and he can play the 4. 6'8". If we put him at the 3, all of a sudden Indiana has a size advantage that they really haven't had in quite some time. You got Nesmith, who's roughly about 6'5" to 6'6", and then you're looking at your Bennedict Mathurin, who's right around 6'5" as well. So you're gaining a couple inches. I don't have what Cam Johnson's wingspan is right in front of me, but in terms of being a 3-point shooter, he has always been a great 3-point shooter for his career. Like I said, he's averaging almost 44% this year on 7.5 attempts per game. Indiana doesn't have a 3-point shooter of that type of volume, so I think that could be pretty good. The 3 assists, it's a career high. So I think, hey, the ball movement's pretty good. So rebounder, nothing to write home about there, and a very capable defender. So I think that Indiana, look, in order to get a guy like Cam Johnson, and we'll get into this in a little bit, you got to part with something. You're
Yeah.
not getting a near 20-point per game scorer for nothing. You look at Pascal Siakam, who leads this Pacers team in scoring at just under 20 points per game. It obviously took a lot to get Siakam. Now, Cam Johnson's not on that level of Pascal Siakam by any means, but he is a good player. Is he a good player, probably averaging better stats on a bad team than he would on a playoff team? Yes, he is. But he is still a player that was very good when the Suns had their run to the NBA Finals. Like he's a very good piece.
What
And I
what did he average when he was with the Suns?
So in terms of like his best season with the Suns was right when he got traded. He was averaging about 14 points per game, 47.5% from the field, 45.5% from 3. The previous year, and when they went to the NBA Finals, he averaged 12.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, shot 46% from the field, and 42.5% from 3. So that was it's quite a few seasons ago. But another guy who entered the league a little bit later in his career, spent quite a
Yeah.
few years at North Carolina, part of the national championship team. So, hey, very good player. I would say very solid player. But make no mistake about this. If Indiana trades for Cam Johnson, he's not their first or second best player. He's arguably probably a great number 4, a potential number 3. And I think that the thing is there is, you're talking about a lineup of Tyrese Haliburton, Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner. Those are the 3 that are definitely there. Like, you're not trading one of those guys for Cam Johnson. Then you still hopefully have, obviously, like a Bennedict Mathurin and an Andrew Nembhard. Those are guys that I very much value. If you add Cam Johnson to that group, that's a real good 5 right there. It really is. But obviously, you have to be willing to part with someone. So Indiana has a couple pieces, but in terms of facilitating a trade on just a one team to one team basis, it does get a little bit tricky. And unfortunately, someone's got to go.
Yeah, so let's talk about this just for a second, because I'm in a group chat with some friends and we were talking about Cameron Johnson in that thread, and I was really intrigued. I said, because if you trade for Cam Johnson, like, my assumption would be that he has to start. But
Maybe.
they kind of threw it back and said, well, that's not necessarily true.
I agree with them.
He could come off the bench.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking, do you really want your third highest paid player on the team coming off the bench, though? Like, is that, I mean, it might be what's best for the team, but is that what you want to really trade for? Like, I'm just throwing that out there. Number one. Number two, like, yeah, he's averaging 20 points a game this season on a bad team where he's got more of a green light. But I think the 14 points where he was at his best with Phoenix is more of a realistic number of what you're going to get on a night-to-night basis. And to me, 14 points a game and not a good rebounder. Like I understand like why he is a good threat from outside, but like that to me is just screaming like a very nice role player. And it's like, do you really want to trade a lot of good stuff to make that the guy that you go out and get? And I think that's kind of been how I felt all season long, all, Cam Johnson trade talk long. It's like, is this the guy you really want to like give up on like legit, assets to your team for? Like, is this the guy that you really want to do that for? I don't necessarily see that. I don't think his contract, like we said, is egregious. I think it's a very fair contract, especially for today's NBA. But like, I don't know. You mentioned it earlier. You said at the very best, he could be a number 3 option for this team, but more than likely a 4. I mean, I think you could say he's a 5. I think you could say he's a 5th or 6th option.
You very well could, because here's the thing. I still think, if you put him head to head, I think Bennedict Mathurin has more potential in his career than a Cam Johnson this far
I think Andrew Nembhard does.
I think he does too. So here's what I will say. I don't want to put some stank on the episode before we've gotten into these trades, but when Indiana was struggling, a guy like Cameron Johnson was way more appealing. It's the we need help, bring somebody in. Now Indiana is one of the hottest tickets in town right now. We're snapping winning streaks left and right. But here's the thing. You look at this and you go, maybe this team just needs to get healthy. Maybe they just need to just, continue to just grow, and you don't want to give up too much. So I'm there with you. Is Cam Johnson the guy that is going to save Indiana and take them over the level, over the hump? No, he's not. Does he make this Pacers team better? Yes, he does. But at what cost? I think it's only right that we then dive into some of these trades to see, is the cost too high? And that's where I want to take this from. I want to take this from if we were on a game show. Is this too much? Like, the price is right. Are we going over the price or not? Because we don't have to make this trade. Last year, when it came to bringing in a guy like Pascal Siakam, you felt like Indiana needs their number 2. They need someone who could be a 1B or a 2, and you had to make that trade. In this situation, this is more of the shiny object, the new toy in town that's available that you want, but you don't want to overspend for it.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad you put it as like, let's play a game of like, higher or lower, or deal or no deal, something like that, right? Because I think that it definitely is really interesting. And you bring up Pascal Siakam, like trading for Pascal Siakam was a totally different level of player. And, it was reported last year by some people, I can't remember exactly who, but it was like, if the Pacers want to get Pascal Siakam, they're going to have to part with one of or both Bennedict Mathurin or, and or Jarris Walker. And I mean, it was obviously going around. Evan Sattery posted that, if the Pacers want to acquire Cam Johnson, they're going to have to part ways with Bennedict Mathurin or Jarris Walker to make it happen. And, we have connections with some people that are a little bit more in the know than an aggregator is. And they basically just sent us a text with like 8 laughing emojis and said, really? Like, where are you getting your information from? So to me, I'll just put it out there like this, that's the same account that said the Pacers were going to re-sign Cole, or that they were signing Cole Swider, and he made the 15-man roster before it was even announced that he was cut. So, when you're aggregating and you're reporting and you're guessing before knowing, that's a problem. So I wouldn't take those sources too seriously. And if people think I have a problem with it, I don't really have a problem. I'm just trying to give you fans a little bit of a heads up. Like, unless it's somebody that you actually trust, if it's like, a Shams Charania who only tweets out stuff that is like gonna happen, or Michael Scotto only really like tweets out stuff that has happened. Jake Fisher likes to tell you what didn't happen, but what was talked about. Mark Stein, I haven't really seen Mark Stein hit on anything in a long time. I think that he hears a lot of chatter, but I can't recall the last time he broke news of the trade. Like your Chris Haynes and those kind of guys, like they're very like, particular with what they report out there. They're not looking for someone to like every single post they post every day. Like that's not their agenda. So if you're looking for someone who tweets about 25, 30 times a day, just trying to get, likes and things like that. And there's multiple accounts out there. Okay. So I'm just throwing out the one out there that constantly tweets about the Pacers because he knows what his followers want to look at. But regardless, I don't think it's going to take both of them. I think that salary purpose wise, it might take one of them to make this deal happen because TJ McConnell isn't eligible to be traded. But like, this is where it does get interesting, and we can talk about like Jarris or Ben if you're willing to trade either of them at this point. I think it's pretty clear that I don't feel that way right now. But I could understand why if the Pacers felt like they needed to make this move, they could talk themselves into it. So I don't know how many trades you have come up with, Facci, but I did tell you off air that I have 3 trades that I've come up with that do not involve Jarris Walker or Bennedict Mathurin. I have one that involves Jarris, and then I have a 4-team trade. So I've got a lot more in my back pocket than probably you do.
Yeah. Unless we're going to be brief with these, I don't think we're going to be able to get through all of those in the amount of time that we have. But, we could try and see what we can do. I got 4 trades. One of them gets a little wild, but the 3 of them are, a little bit more realistic. So sounds like we got, upwards of 4 each, basically.
Okay. Well, let's just kind of go quickly then. And we'll just kind of see if we can kind of figure things out here. So give me your first offer that you came up with.
Yep. Now remember, everybody, this is more of the price. Is the price right, or is it an overpay? I think we all, Pacer Nation, are emotionally attached to a lot of these players, and there's no way to just trade the bottom of the barrel and get a 20-point per game score. So in this first trade, it's the Nets sending Cameron Johnson and Day'Ron Sharpe to the Indiana Pacers. In exchange, the Pacers are trading Obi Toppin, Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, and a 2028 Phoenix Suns second-round pick swap. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, honestly, like, that's not a bad starting point, okay? For me, because if you're trying to get Cameron Johnson, it's already going to push Jarris out of the rotation. So if you're keeping Nesmith, excuse me, if you're keeping Nesmith already too, like, and Shepard, like, okay, you're basically just saying we're giving up on Toppin. We want to upgrade Toppin for Cameron Johnson. Jarris Walker probably isn't in our our long-term plan. So we're bringing in this guy that's got 3 more years left on his deal, around $20-some million. We get some insurance at the center position as well. We're only giving up a second-round pick, but we are giving up our lottery pick in Jarris Walker for Cameron Johnson. So I think that for me, I think a lot of people would say that it's too high.
So he was selected in the 20s, but it's been a couple years. So for Isaiah Jackson. Plus, you're also electing to not re-sign him after a torn Achilles.
I didn't even bring him up yet.
Okay. So I thought you said our lottery pick.
Jarris Walker.
Okay. I guess when you combined Isaiah Jackson, it sounded like our lottery pick in Isaiah Jackson.
My fault.
It's right. Yeah. So with Jarris Walker, look, there's got to be something in there to attract the Nets. Like, let's put this in the nicest way possible for Obi Toppin. There's nothing appealing about taking on the remaining 3 years of Obi Toppin's deal at this point. Like, he's not a needle mover for a lot of teams. He's a good player, but Jarris Walker is the featured piece in this deal. I mean, who knows if Brooklyn even has any interest in re-signing Isaiah Jackson coming off of that torn Achilles. But here's just to break it down. Obi Toppin's in year 1 of a $58 million deal. It increases from $12.9 million all the way up to $16 million. So by getting him off the books, this is something that, hey, maybe could help the Pacers long term. Obviously, you're clearing the money for Jarris Walker. Does this help for re-signing Miles Turner? I'm not really sure, but in this scenario, essentially, it's more of a consolidation of Obi Toppin and Jarris Walker because now you're bringing in Cam Johnson, who's getting those minutes at the 3 or the 4. Day'Ron Sharpe, good backup center for the Pacers. Now you got Miles Turner, Day'Ron Sharpe, Thomas Bryant at the center position. You feel a little bit better about it.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's the worst trade possible. I think that it's a pretty fair trade. I would say that for me, if I'm the Pacers, like, if I'm going to actually make a swing at Cameron Johnson, I know that I'm going to have to give up something of value. Now, most of our fans will be like freaking out when you mention Obi Toppin and Jarris Walker, but that's what it takes to make the math work to get a guy like Cameron Johnson. You're only giving up a 2028 second-round pick. I personally think the Nets would say, man, we probably can get a better offer than this without having to take back Obi's contract. So to me, there could be more incentive for Brooklyn to kind of like look and see what else is out there. But this isn't the worst one because you are still getting a lottery level player in Jarris Walker, who is just coming off his best game as we're recording this, that Sunday night against the Cavs, that was, what I thought was his best game of his career. And then Rick Carlisle followed that up in the post-game press conference saying that this was the best game of Jarris Walker's career. And fans have been adamant about this is why you don't trade Jarris Walker because he is so young. So, Jarris Walker is a very intriguing player. Don't ever know if he'll be the guy on any team, but I definitely think he could be a very impactful role player. And this would be a nice person for the Nets to kind of just bring in and kind of, let them develop.
Totally. Before we put a bow on this first trade, we made this list. We were supposed to record this episode, before, technically right after that Cleveland game. So when we made this, Jarris Walker was coming off of a 7-minute 0-point performance. And then the very next game, I went, oh man, am I going to have to throw all these trades out the window? So here's the thing. It's the highs and lows of a young player. You don't know what type of consistency you're going to get. You know what you're getting out of Cam Johnson moving forward. Out of Jarris, you don't. If the Pacers have the patience to stick with him long term, maybe it does pay off. If you really want to capitalize on this 2 to 3 year window for this team, then making this trade makes a little bit more sense. But I would like to hear your first trade.
Okay. How many two teams? I mean, do you only have teams between or trades between the Nets and the Pacers?
No, I have 1 3-team deal.
So you have 2 more.
Correct.
Just run through those real quick because all mine
right.
are 3-teamers. I don't have any direct because I knew you said you were doing those only.
Yeah, I know you love a good 3-4-team deal. Sometimes it can make my head explode. But
let's do an 8-team one. I'm gonna do one for you one day.
How many teams?
An 8-team deal.
That's just insane. I'll never be able to keep up. But maybe you'll send it to me in advance so I could follow along. But here's what I got for my second team deal. If you don't want to part with Jarris, you want to keep him, I might have something for you. So here's what we got. Pacers, Nets, Indiana's getting Cameron Johnson and Jalen Wilson. Jalen Wilson, hey, good player out of college, 2024 Summer League MVP. Will he ever be anything in the NBA? Not entirely sure, but for salary purposes, it works out. Pacers are giving up Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, and 2 second-round picks. It's a 2027 Utah second-round pick and a 2028 Phoenix Suns swap. This is what it might cost if you don't want to part with a Jarris Walker or a Bennedict Mathurin. What are your thoughts on this?
So this is why I did 3-team deals because I don't think Obi Toppin and Aaron Nesmith make any sense for the Nets.
No, I don't think they do either. That's why it's like, okay, 2 second-round picks. Would they go for this? I think they turn it down because the Nets
in a heartbeat.
Yeah. But I had to have something that doesn't incorporate, one of the young players that you really want to hold on to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think if you threw Johnny Furphy in there and like 3 second-round picks, maybe they look at this and say, okay, but I don't see it. Personally, for me, I think that they want a young player.
I agree with you.
Or picks like that are like first-round picks, not really good role players that aren't going to really get them much back in value.
I'm right there with you. I had to throw it out, but I definitely think that Brooklyn goes, So we're thinking more along the lines of Jarris Walker. And then that's where it's like, geez. So, yeah, I don't think they do this trade, but I wanted to come up with something that didn't have Indiana forking over, a Mathurin, an Emhart, a Jarris Walker. Even like a Johnny Furphy is probably where you could throw Furphy in there, but it might be that Indiana and the fan base values Johnny Furphy more than some other teams right now just because he hasn't proven much in the NBA, but still seems very promising to me.
Okay. Last trade real quick, Facci, for your just Pacers Nets.
Yep. Last 2-way trade. In this scenario, Indiana's getting Cameron Johnson and Day'Ron Sharpe once again. They are giving up Aaron Nesmith, Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, and James Wiseman. So no picks in this deal. Jarris Walker, the feature piece. Aaron Nesmith, just someone that they're like, hey, you know what? Let's hold on him now. Maybe we shop him later, whatever. Good player. But Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman, 2 players that might not be part of the Pacers' future. They're more of just for salary purposes. Unless Brooklyn wants to roll the dice on James Wiseman during the rebuild. Isaiah Jackson, I'm not sure, how much interest they would have in re-signing him.
I think that the Nets probably like this one the best out of the 3 you offered because they're not taking on the long-term money of Obi Toppin.
Yep.
They can re-sign Isaiah Jackson, who's a restricted free agent. They can, they have a team option there with James Wiseman in his second year, which I think his contract is fully guaranteed because he got hurt, so they cannot just waive him for that. Obviously, they get Jarris. I think Aaron is probably more tradable than
Mhm.
Obi. So I could see them liking this one the most out of the
Good balance.
three. I also wonder from a Pacer standpoint if this makes a whole lot of sense because now you've got Obi Toppin at the four, Cameron Johnson at the four, and Pascal Siakam at the four. You got a lot of guys that play the four position. So if you're sliding Cameron Johnson up to the three, is that his natural position? Is that where he looks the best?
That's what he's listed on as ESPN as a small forward. Now we can't just go straight off
Well,
ESPN. I've told you I have the gripe they still list Isaiah Jackson as a small forward, so
thank
he
you.
could
Thank
play
you.
either position. Yeah,
What
so
does
he
basketball
could.
reference say?
Let's pull it up
They
right
might say
now, and
both, but I would assume he's played more minutes at the four than the three in
yeah,
his
let's
career.
definitely go by the minutes breakdown because I think that's going to be the most telling sign. So Basketball Reference lists him as a power forward in their description.
Yeah.
So it can definitely play both positions, but I just want to see from a minutes breakdown at each position. Let's see. You'll have to come back to me on this. I don't want to take up
Okay.
too much time.
Yeah, we're spending too much time on this, so we'll move it forward. So that was your two-team deals that you came up with, or yeah, the two-team deals just strictly between the Nets and the Pacers. Curious what Pacer fans think of all those. And now I know most Pacer fans will be like, I don't want to do this deal, whatever. But like before you poo-poo it, remember there were people that were interested. So my first trade is a three-team deal with the Phoenix Suns and the Brooklyn Nets, as well as your Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are going to acquire Cameron Johnson from the Nets and Bull from Phoenix. The Nets will acquire Yusuf Nurkic, Josh Okogie, a 2028 top 10 protected first from Indy, and a 2031 pick swap with Phoenix. The Suns will receive Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, and Day'Ron Sharp.
Mm, that's interesting. I think the Suns probably go for it because I think they want Nurkic off the
Oh,
roster,
I
and
think without a doubt, this makes the Suns so much more interesting to me. They get an
I
upgrade
agree.
at center and Day'Ron Sharp, in my opinion. Obi Toppin and Aaron Nesmith. I know Nesmith's hurt right now, but still, a
Good
healthy
back.
Nesmith with that group. You throw Nesmith out there with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and you even put Obi Toppin at the four and the five next to Kevin Durant. Like that could be really interesting for them.
I think Phoenix goes for it. I think for the Nets, they get that 2028 first round top 10 protected pick. I think what we have to realize here is the Nets turned down the Memphis Grizzlies first round pick for Dorian Finney-Smith because they already have a few picks for now. So I
Yeah.
think they would prefer future picks. So
Yep.
that kind of hits on what they're looking for. Indiana gets Cam Johnson, and I love the idea of Bol Bol. I think
Yeah.
everybody loves the idea. The idea is better than the actual player, and you keep your Jarris Walker. So the fact that it's top 10 protected is what could push me to say, okay, I could do this. If it was an unprotected pick, I'm out. I
Yeah.
just think
Yeah.
you don't know where this team could be in 2028. I feel like that's a little unreliable. It's shaky ground. But the fact that it's top 10 protected, I think you could always take a risk with that. So I think I'd probably do it.
Do you think the Nets do it?
So the Nets get the 2028 first round pick. They
In the
get the
2031 pick swap with Phoenix.
and they take on Nurkic.
And
Um,
Okogie. I think Okogie has 2 more years on his deal this year and next year. I forget how many years Nurkic has left, but
I'm gonna look that up right now, just while we're doing this, because I want to see if that contract's too bad, then that might scare them off a little bit. Now that contract expires after next year. I think they would
yeah,
do it.
I
I think
think
they
it's
would
really
do it.
interesting.
Yeah, it is, and it's not terrible money. I mean, after this year, so it expires next year. He's making $19.3 million, expiring. That contract could be moved. So I
Yeah.
think that they probably would do that trade.
Okay. I think that there might be something here, and it does kind of give the Pacers a little bit of a consolidation trade, and it does open up more minutes for Jarris, and it keeps Aaron Nesmith from maybe cutting into Ben Matherin's minutes as well. And
Yeah.
the front office, honestly, they could be like, look, we really like the way those guys are playing. We know Rick might want to go back to his veterans. So this is a way for us to kind of force his hands to keep playing the young guys. I mean, if you're looking at it from that perspective. So I'll move forward here. My next one is with the Pacers, obviously, the Nets, obviously, in the Los Angeles Lakers. Okay, so we got the Pacers acquire Cameron Johnson and who you mentioned someone earlier, Jalen Wilson. The Nets
Mhm.
will acquire Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and a Lakers 2029 top 8 protected pick. The Lakers will get the same package the Suns got in the previous deal: Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, and Day'Ron Sharpe.
All right, so the Lakers are getting Obi, Aaron Nesmith, Day'Ron Sharpe. So I think that gives them like really good depth at I feel like a lot of their positions, especially they just acquired Dorian Finney-Smith not too long ago. So I think that gives them a pretty well-rounded roster. The Nets are getting Hachimura. Who else?
Gabe Vincent and the Lakers
whatever.
2029 top 8 protected pick. So very similar package to Nurkic and Okogie.
Yeah, I mean, Rui's a solid player who I think could
Maybe
be all
more
right.
potential than the other two
Yeah,
names I mentioned from the previous trade.
I think so. I think so because like Nurkic, they're just waiting for him to get off the books. Gabe Vincent would be the same type of way of like there's not much appeal there. I think Hachimura is solid, and then that's a 2028 top 8 protected or 2029 top 8?
2029 top 8.
I think they'd probably do that because that could be a really good pick. A really good. It could be like a 10th overall, 12th overall, so a lottery pick basically.
Yeah,
Could be.
it just depends on where the Lakers are at in 2029. But like obviously you don't expect LeBron to be there. So like, is this the deal they want to make? Move one of those picks for? But like, I just think if you have Anthony Davis, you have Dorian Finney-Smith, you have LeBron James, Austin Reeves, you throw Aaron Nesmith and Obi Toppin, even Day'Ron Sharpe into that group of players, like, yeah, you probably still need an on-ball scorer, maybe a little bit more than what the Pacers in this group are having. Maybe you could extend this to where you get somebody like that. But I just think that could really be fascinating and really be good defensively.
So, do you think it's too much for the Pacers to give up? If it's Nesmith, Obi Toppin, and that was it for the Pacers?
That's it.
Okay.
It's less than what they gave up last trade.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think it's fine for the Pacers because I do think we've talked about consolidation. Does it make the Pacers better? I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can make an argument on either end. I mean, is the sum of Obi and Nesmith better than what you're going to get out of Cam Johnson? Maybe, but I think it simplifies things a bit. So
Well,
I think
here's what you have to look at it is it's not Cameron Johnson being equivalent to Obi and Aaron. It's Cam Johnson plus freeing up minutes for Jarris Walker.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah. We're putting a lot into Jarris being able to deliver on a consistent basis. So I think if he can step up and be more consistent, then yeah, it's a big opportunity for him. But I do think we're going to have a little bit of a problem when Aaron Nesmith does come back and the minutes that it takes away from a Bennedict Mathurin or a Jarris Walker. And I think that right now on the short list, it's Jarris Walker who's going to be losing, potentially 10 minutes a night coming off of his minutes. So yeah, I think I would do that trade. I think the Nets probably would as well because I think they value the future pick. Gabe Vincent, I'd have to look into that contract to see how much is left. I know it was signed. I think once the ink started to dry, I think the Lakers regretted it. Okay, just one more year at $11.5 million. I do think they would do that deal.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, what are they really looking for? What are they looking to get for Cam Johnson is the big question. It kind of makes sense to me, but at the end of the day, like everybody has to like want to do it, and I'm really banking on the Lakers being willing to part with the 2029 first round pick, which I don't know if that really is what they would do.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but like you have to maximize this roster, and I feel like LeBron's not getting better at this point. So nothing's really promised after this year in terms of what he's going to do. Like who knows? I think he's got maybe after this year, maybe one more year left in him. I don't think he's going to hang on forever, but we'll see. I'm sure everyone's been saying that. And then lastly, Hachimura and Gabe Vincent come off the books after next season. So this would free up a lot of money for the Nets to be big time players in free agency after next season, and they would get a first round pick with it. So it's not bad.
All right, you want me to throw my last trade out there for my 3-team deals?
What do you got?
I'll move quickly. Obviously, Pacers get Cameron Johnson in the deal. They're also going to take Day'Ron Sharpe back from Brooklyn for some more center depth. The Nets will acquire Luke Kennard, Brandon Clark, Jake LaRavia, and a 2026 first-round pick from Memphis. The Grizzlies will acquire Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, and James Wiseman.
I'm definitely going to need you to repeat that because there's a lot going on there. So give it to me one more time.
All right, so the Grizzlies are going to get Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, and James Wiseman. Okay, so 3 Pacers go into the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies are sending Luke Kennard, who's on an expiring deal, Brandon Clark, Jake LaRavia, and a 2026 first round pick from Memphis. That's going to the Nets. The Pacers get Cameron Johnson and Day'Ron Sharpe.
I don't know. Just feels like a bunch of mediocre pieces going to the net. Like a 2026 first is like the only thing that I feel like is really even that
Well,
appealing.
that's the appealing part. Kennard's an expiring deal. Jake LaRavia is on a rookie contract, so if they like Jake LaRavia as a role player, he could be somebody they keep. Brandon Clark could be another movable piece as well, but it's really for the pick and for like potential Jake LaRavia stuff.
Yeah,
I think the other 2 deals make more sense to me.
I think so. Yeah, I don't
So,
think they go for this one.
so yeah,
Um,
basically I had the same thing. Um, basically I had the same thing with the Jarris Walker deal that I had. It was involving Memphis. But really, any of these deals that you do, like that I mentioned here, you could swap out Aaron Nesmith and throw in Jarris Walker plus Isaiah Jackson to make the deal work.
yeah,
So
it,
to
yeah,
me, it's like I really love Aaron Nesmith, and I do believe that he is a very important piece of this team, and I do not want to get rid of him. But I think that I would rather part with him than with Jarris Walker overall, just because I feel like the ceiling is so much higher for Jarris. It's just
definitely.
he's so young, it's hard to kind of see it right now. But 5 years from now, you know what you're going to get from Aaron Nesmith. I don't really think there's much more to his game in terms of like bursting through the ceiling and becoming something else. But I do think that that potential is still there for Jarris Walker.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the first half of last season might have been some of the best ball that we'll ever see at Aaron Nesmith. I would love to be wrong. I don't want to write him off. Still a young player with plenty of years to go, but I just think that like he's locked into being a 3 and D type player. Shoot the 3 ball well. You got to be consistent with it. Play good defense, but I don't see him like Jarris Walker just feels like he could impact the game in a few different avenues. But for my last trade, here's what we got. It is a 3-teamer. It's the Indiana Pacers. It's the Brooklyn Nets. And then it's the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh
Here's
boy.
what we got. So Indiana is getting in this deal Cameron Johnson and Robert Williams. All right.
Wow, that's
They're,
a big deal.
yes. Well, we'll see. They're sending out Obi Toppin, Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman, Johnny Furphy, and 3 second-round picks. So the Portland Trailblazers are getting Johnny Furphy and 2 second-round picks, a 2025 second-round pick, a 2027 second-round pick from Utah. The Nets are getting Obi, Jarris, Isaiah, James Wiseman, and a 2028 Phoenix second-round pick. Who says no?
Hmm. That's a lot of moving parts
There's a
there.
lot of moving parts. It's tough with this. Hear me out on this. Portland has a dilemma at center. You still have DeAndre Ayton, you got Donovan Clingan, you got Robert Williams, uh, so you have a lot of centers over there.
So they got Furphy in 2 seconds for
So they
Robert
get
Williams.
Yeah, they get Furphy in 2 seconds. So Robert
Okay.
Williams has this year and one more year left on his contract. So for Indiana, you're consolidating a lot of these pieces. You're getting Cam Johnson, you're getting Robert Williams, who will be on the roster next year. And maybe you go, if it doesn't work out with Miles Turner, Robert Williams and Thomas Bryant holding it down at center for at least 1 year or so. To give them insurance at center. Robert Williams instantly becomes a really good defensive backup center for Indiana. But yeah, you're partnering with some young pieces. You're partnering with some Obi Toppin. But I look at it as Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman aren't helping you this year. Those second-round picks are meant to be traded. I don't think they're going to ever be players drafted. I think they're trade chips. Johnny Furphy, I do like. But if you want to go for it, I think bringing in Cameron Johnson and Robert Williams is something that helps you for at least the next 2 years.
It feels like this trade would put Indiana over the tax.
No. So actually, yes, it does. It does
Yeah,
put
they're
the
not going to do that.
Yep. Yeah. Probably not.
Sorry,
So
I wasn't trying to be mean, but like
no, there's nothing mean to that.
anything that puts the Pacers over the tax, while it is still a legal trade, they will not hard cap themselves to being a second apron team or a first apron team. They're not going to do that.
I
So
wish I thought you were wrong, but I
yeah,
don't.
this,
I agree with it. This is what it takes sometimes if you want to win. So
yeah, well, that's true too. But I don't know if this is the winning move I would do to put myself into the tax. I think this is a move that more like makes more sense in the offseason, right? Like
Yeah.
you have a feeling Turner's not going to resign, so that's when you go out there and trade Furphy plus 2 seconds for Robert Williams, and now you feel like you have more insurance and that kind of thing. But this one really doesn't move it for me, Facci, and I'm sure my four-teamer won't move it either. So I'll just quickly say it, and we'll wrap it up because we have to record another podcast after this. So the four-team deal that I have is the Nuggets, the Heat, the Nets, and the Pacers. That's right. The Pacers and the Nets are cashing in on the Jimmy Butler trade, okay? So Jimmy Butler is going to the Denver Nuggets with Kashad Johnson. The Miami Heat receive a Michael Porter Jr. and Obi Toppin. The Nets receive Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, Dario Saric, Zeke Najee's awful contract, and a 2031 top 12 protected pick from the Nuggets. The Pacers receive Cameron Johnson and Jalen Wilson.
Pacers get Cam Johnson and Jalen Wilson. They're giving up, repeat again who they're giving up, Obi Toppin.
They're giving up Obi Toppin, Jarris Walker, and Isaiah Jackson.
Okay, so from a Pacers standpoint, I like it. The Heat getting Michael Porter Jr. I just don't think that he's like Heat culture material though.
You said that last time, but I just think that if they're going to lose Jimmy Butler and they don't want to pay him, wouldn't you rather have a young guy that fits with this group and potentially with what they can do? And who says Eric Spoelstra cannot mold him into a Heat culture kind of guy?
I just don't think he has that dog. I really don't. So
well, you haven't seen Michael Porter Jr. yet in Miami, so
and I don't think we ever will. But here's the thing for this.
This scenario, we will.
In this scenario, it's definitely possible. So the Nuggets are getting Jimmy Butler.
Yes, they're going all in.
This is all in for the Nuggets. I mean, we saw them, being real frugal with their money, real making sure that they weren't spending too much in the offseason the last couple of years. So I'd be interested, but I think they would totally take a Jimmy Butler over a Michael Porter Jr. at this point, just because they know what they're getting. So who do you think says no in the deal?
Yeah, honestly, I think everybody says yes in this deal. I don't know why, but I feel like the Nuggets feel pretty good about it. Like if they're going for Jimmy Butler, you only got to trade Michael Porter Jr. And honestly, like you can get off Saric and Zeke Najee's contract. Like that's huge. I understand the 2031 first might not be the most ideal thing, but like this is a team that wants to win now with Jokic. I think the Heat, if they can get Obi Toppin and Porter Jr. for Jimmy Butler, like that to me, like you're not going to get much better than that with what's been reported out there. I think the Nets, they get that first round pick, they get a lottery guy in Jarris Walker for Cam Johnson. That really helps them. And then if you're the Pacers, you get Cam Johnson without having to give up Aaron Nesmith.
Yeah, Nets and Pacers definitely do the deal. I think the Nuggets probably do, but they have gotten a little bit cheaper. So I'd be interested to see, like you trade for Jimmy Butler, you have to give him a max contract. That's what he wants. You do.
Did the Raptors get a max contract from Kawhi Leonard?
They wanted to. He turned them down.
I'm just saying they don't have to do it. They could do it all now to win another championship with Jokic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I just think that they don't do those all-in type moves. They
could do a sign and trade too, Facci.
I mean, look, anything could. I know you always.
I'm just saying, you got to think bigger picture here.
Later. But yeah, I just don't know if the Nuggets. I don't think they would do it. I really don't. I really don't. I don't think they take risks like that.
I don't know. Jokic is really good. And I think Jimmy Butler and Jokic and Murray could be really good together. Aaron Gordon. Russell Westbrook's been playing his best basketball in a long time.
I definitely agree. I think if they if they have what it takes to really man up and do this deal, yeah.
It hurts their shooting a lot.
It definitely does. Michael Porter Jr. has always been a really good three-point shooter. Are they willing to part with a 2031 first, knowing that there's a chance that none of these guys are on this roster? Maybe
yeah,
Jokic,
but if they, I mean, after 20, I think they have all their picks that they can trade, except that's the first one they can trade that's legal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. They're a team that doesn't have many options to do. Michael Porter Jr. is that contract you got to move. So look, if they're
just hurt a lot. That's my big thing with him. He's hurt a lot.
I know. I do not think that's the type of guy that Spoelstra's going to go from Jimmy Butler to Michael Porter Jr. is like
they're going from a guy that doesn't want to be there to a guy that's really good that's still young on a good contract. You're not looking at it from that perspective. You got to see that perspective, and I think that makes a lot more sense. What else is going to really be out there for Jimmy Butler? I mean, sure, something else could pop up, but like If Michael Porter Jr. is the best player offered for Jimmy Butler and it is on the table, you're telling me that he would say no to that?
No, I mean, look, I think that's as good as it's probably going to get. I think it's good as it's going to get. We'll
Okay.
see what happens with the fall off afterwards, because I think that Jimmy's like identity and what he brings to the table motivates a lot of guys, and Michael Porter Jr. is far from that. But I think that this is a move that definitely makes the Nuggets better. It makes the Pacers better. I think the Nets get what they want, and I think that for the Heat, yeah, in terms of what you're going to get back, Michael Porter Jr. is probably the best player that you are going to get back in any type of return.
All right. Well, that's our trades right there. I think me and Facci, after we've talked through these trades, the more, I mean, obviously, like we're pretty like set on like let's just keep this team how it is
Yes, I agree.
and not trade for Cameron Johnson. But if they were, this is the kind of deals we think they could be involved with. And Obi Toppin has to be in every deal for salary purposes.
Literally.
Unless you want to keep him and throw Aaron Nesmith plus Isaiah Jackson plus James Wiseman plus Johnny Fairfield, like you want to just completely tear this whole thing down. Like it's not really realistic. So other than that, this is a fun podcast. I love doing the trade ideas. I love debating with you about like who says no and who says yes, and why we get so worked up about it because it's just like this is my trade. It makes sense. And you're like it doesn't make any sense. Yes, it does. But regardless, it's a lot of fun. So anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I just want to say, look, I'm right there with you. Look, this team's playing great basketball. Don't fix it if it ain't broke. I think right now the Pacers, they're continuing to get healthy. They're continuing to find themselves, building consistency. So you don't need to trade a third of the roster for one guy right now. So I think the price might be a little bit too high for a player of Cameron Johnson's caliber.
Yeah, my biggest thing right now is like, look, I understand that a consolidation trade might need to happen here, sooner rather than later with the Pacers. You're going to have to pay a lot of guys. But is this the right time to make that move? Is this the right player to do it for? Personally, I don't think so. I think that they need to kind of keep their options open because this is not a team that is close to a championship to me. I know they just beat the Cavs and they beat the Celtics twice this year. I just don't see it, especially with Tyrese dealing with the hamstring injury once again. I think that they really need to consider their options in the future, but right now is not the time. So that is all we have for our Cam Johnson trade podcast. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you did, leave us a comment in the comment section on YouTube. Let us know what you guys think. If there was some lagging in this video, I do apologize. My Wi-Fi has been kind of crap recently, so that has been an issue. But if you're glad we're back on YouTube and you're a big Pacer fan and you love this show, Facci, hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.